Hello again, Star Wars players. Chris Gogolin bringing you the next round of Outrider Cup action. This is game number 5 of the Outrider Cup series between Team USA, which has a current 4-0 lead over Team Europe. We'll be having Brian Fred playing Darkside, and he will be using Invasion is his deck of choice for this particular format. And his opponent is it's Jonas, but what the heck is Jonas's last name? Oh, it's not on the sheet. Hang on. Well, he's taking on Jonas, who's playing Invasion. So just like the movies, I'm sorry, WHAP, we have a plan. So we've got WHAP versus Invasion, a classic Episode 1 style matchup. And we'll see how these players get set up here. All right, so Invasion. Let's go full screen. He's starting the blockade flagship at Naboo, along with the Swamp and the Droid Racks, which lets him stack battle droids that were just lost, and he can then cycle them back into hand during his control phase. He's going to start Tentacle right off the bat as a grabber. Begin landing your troops and fighters straight ahead. This one gives Republic characters and the droid Trade Federation starships forfeit +2 bonus, so that'll help with certain people, giving them really good forfeit. Neighbor and Ellis are limited to move phase. He can get docking bays, and while he occupies Naboo with the Trade Federation ship, his force generation there is +1. He's also getting one more for controlling the system with the virtual Naboo from V16. Also, if Darkside controls and their objective is flipped, characters and vehicles deploy +1 to Naboo sites. So the battle for the system could be very, very interesting there. We're going to get, right off the bat, a leadership being played to go pull General Kenobi that is going to get tentacled. So leadership's already grabbed with starting that. Brian's third effect here is inconsequential losses, so he'll be able to forfeit weapons to the used pile. We see this more in Shadow Collective. We used to see this a lot with battle droids, because you would play an entire legion of my best troops, have Destiny 8 rifles and 7 or 8 of them in the deck, and you would just keep cycling them back with battle droids and kill everybody. That has since been shielded, so an entire legion no longer adds to the battle droid gun or anything within episode 1 icon, I think. But we do see Brian going right off the bat. He's getting the DFS Squadron Fighter out while it's same system as your battleship. You can deploy a droid starfighter laser cannon aboard. So that's a Destiny 6 gun that he just got. He can fire that for 2 force if he wants to try and shoot at things. Target starship, so he can shoot at the capitals if he so wants to. Yeah, matchups were completely random. There was a random number generator done by Chris Schoenthal, our tournament advocate, live on stream during during the Boston event. All right. So Brian gets his docking bay. He pulls the blockade flagship, so he's getting a big force bump right off the bat. He also puts the generator in between the hallway and the courtyard. Now you can still ascension guns from any interior site to the throne room, so he can jump right over everything. But unlike how WAP usually sets up, where they deploy and then just walk into the hallway, which is a 1-0 normally, because the force generation is canceled until WAP flips. It's on the flip side here. This time they won't be able to just set up and hide there. They'd have to walk in to a site where Brian has icons and can actually deploy and fight. And this site layout might make it a little challenging. We'll see how Jonas wants to deal with that, whether he just takes a turn or two off, slows things down, whether he goes to space first. He didn't start Navy. What do we got? We got we'll take the long way. Then another pathetic life form and security control, which is kind of a mirror of the dark side card. Except it lets you activate a force while you have a guy at a battleground. And then Jedi business to get his Jedi cheaper and with lightsabers and stuff. Yeah, should be interesting to see. WHAP isn't starting the Galactic Navy, whether or not he plays it in the deck and just sort of waits to set it up mid-game, as some of them tend to do. All right, so there's Camino. There's the 1-0 docking bay. We'll see if Camino goes and digs the site. Yep. He'll pay a force and he'll go get the 2-0 as well. So both players already activating 14 and 15 force respectively at the end of their first turn. Like, this is certainly not a game where we're going to have a shortage of icons. And Jonas is going to go dig with Don't Tread on Me. He's going to get his grappling hook, so he's got his extra grabber. Earlier in the turn, Brian played a There They Are to go get out a battle droid, and that was stacked on the shield grabber. Brian took an infantry battle droid, not one of the B2 droids that draws by themselves. This is if this droid just fired a blaster and hit a character, opponent loses a force. Gungans and Republic characters present are forfeit -1. Okay. No, the icons at the Naboo system are canceled until, similar to the hallway, until Darkside flips, the icons here are canceled. So unless he's got the TANF 4 or some other type of spy ship, yeah, he's not deploying directly there. Now, he could deploy to Camino and then move over, but then we get into that cat and mouse game of, trying to satisfy battle order or battle plan, where, this is a battleground system while the objective is flipped, and then light side goes there and fights, and then dark side runs away, and then now it's not a battleground. And then, if light side chases, well, then dark side moves back, and then it becomes a battleground again. Potentially, if they flip again, and it kind of is advantageous to dark side in that manner. Obviously, if light side can just kick them off, because Invasion isn't known for having a lot of space. Although with the guns and being able to forfeit them used, he can absorb a decent amount of forfeit there. But you might just see light side say, you know what, let's just get a ship to Camino and hold that for a while and not have to worry about it. No other activity from Jonas. He's just going to draw a handful of cards and go from there. Saving 5. Jonas Hagen Norgard. Full name. There you go. Couldn't remember it. My apologies. All right, so Fred activated. He had 17 force to work with. He spends 4 and drops Darth Plagueis. Other Dark Jedi except Sidious are lost. While alone, your characters with Trade Federation in lore deplore -1 to Episode 1 locations, completely immune to attrition. So he drops them to the 2-2 site, where Dark Jedi are power +2, and then now Episode 1 locations, all of his Trade Federation guys are deploy -1. So Newt goes to the throne room for 2 force. He gets Captain Dolphine for 2 aboard the flagship. You see there he's got the forfeit bonus from begin landing your troops, so he covers 7. He also drops a battle droid pilot up there. The pilot draws one if unable to otherwise, but while the objective is flipped, if you have, oh, this is only in battles at sites that you get the extra bonus. I was about to misquote or mistakenly give the wrong information. So if you have, yeah, battle droids deploy -1 when the objective is flipped. So this guy only cost 1. And then he pulls Sand, stacks another copy of Plagueis and another copy of New. So the objective is flipped. This is, draining for 2. This is the dark side, light side throne room, so that's a drain of 2. He could convert it if he wanted to. Just to try and deny icons, but realistically they're both activating 16. Like switching a force icon on a site, probably not going to make much of a difference. And now because of the game text here, he can only, from WHAP, he can't deploy to interior Naboo sites. He's got to start here and he's got to march his way over. So he'd walk in and he'd have to walk in front of Plagueis, and then he could use the Ascension guns to jump all the way to the throne room for the following turn. But right now, Maul and Scimitar also coming, or his Sith Infiltrator, right? Yeah, Scimitar is what they're calling it. Okay. Which also gets a forfeit +2 bonus because it has the Trade Federation icon on it. So that thing forfeits for 8. So more than enough forfeit stacked up here. Fast start for Brian. He's flipped. He's threatening at least 4 damage next turn. And who knows what may happen in a battle here, depending on what characters walk their way in. Yeah, and now, because the objective is flipped here, characters and vehicles deploy +1 to Naboo sites. We mentioned that at the start here, so light side's deploying their characters at +1. Dark side's deploying their characters at -1. This certainly seems like a fast start for Brian, and it's putting him in the driver's seat, but, WHAP is a deck that does have quite a few tricks in it between, projection of a Skywalker to mitigate some damage, and disarms, and sorry about the messes, and with lightsabers, Clash of Sabers comes into play. And we will see Kenobi start the journey there. Now, the other thing, too, of course, is Episode 1 Yoda, Master of the Force. He can relocate to any Episode 1 site, so Yoda could also leapfrog over all this stuff. And Kit Fisto is land speed 2, so he could also, if he had him, he could have sort of deployed him here and moved to the hallway and kind of bypassed this site, which would have been interesting as well. All right. Jonas is going to play his copy of Sand, and he's going to stack both, well, I don't know both, but 2 copies of Qui-Gon Serene Jedi on there. We've got Obi, we've got Rex, we've got the Queen. Do we get a Panaka as well? Because that's the other thing. You move 2 here using land speed for free was another thing that Lightside also usually relies on when they're moving their army of people over. But in this case, he will have to pay to walk each character over. Now, he will get to activate a force from this on opponent's turn, because this Episode 1 leader will occupy a battleground. He's got actually 3 Episode 1 icon leaders. So there you go. Obi's moving over, and will he... Yeah, he's going to bring some friends. Brian's got a lot in space. Sure. I mean, the gun goes for 3. The ship here forfeits for 5. So basically, that's an 8 right there. Between, if he has to lose the starship or the battle droid here. Also would just cover 2 and go right back to the, forfeit the gun used, forfeit the battle droid and pilot and bring him right back. He's got lots of options. I mean, he's got 18 power, plus a gun that might be able to shoot things. Yeah, he certainly has a lot going for him here. All right. So Brian activated 16, giving him 17 total to work with. He'll be draining for 3 total because of the projection. 2 at the system and 1 at the site. And then we'll see what answers he's got for ground battles here. If he just opts to move away with Plagueis, if he puts more guys in the throne room, if he wants to take a shot now and try and pick off some of these guys so there's less people moving to the throne room. You know, Amidala is vulnerable. She's defense value 6. We're thinking battle droid blasters with this, and maybe multiple droid star cannons as well. There should be a decent amount of 6s available in the deck. Now, the downside to this is Dark Jedi except Sidious are lost, so probably you're not going to see Maul. Jonas plays a perimeter scan to play a defensive shield. Only Jedi carry this weapon. He'll lose that to the drain of 1. He gets drained for 2 at the system. He loses the escape pod he played at the beginning of the turn to get Hujix, as well as Jarrus Janik. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That is Maul in space. We already talked about that. No ground Maul, right? Like we're used to seeing Invasion with Maul, Lone Hunter, with his lightsaber chasing people around. That's not what we're going to see in this version. All the point I was trying to make. But thank you for the correction. All right, Brian's going to cycle a we must accelerate our plans just to see what's in his reserve deck. Obviously, he likes what he sees because his next action is to play Force Push, which is interesting because, of course, you could have used Force Push to exclude a character from battle. So if hypothetically, you know, he wanted to drop a guy or 2 here and then exclude Kenobi and beat up on the other 2, that would have been an option. But instead, he's just going to deploy a bunch of people to the throne room. He's got Lord Sidious. Once per game can go get an Emodian, or always 2 there are. If alone or a Theed Palace icon objective on table, an opponent just initiated battle here, he can exclude a character of ability less than 6 present. So because his dark objective is on the table, actually either objective is on the table, he can exclude 1 character of ability less than 6 automatically. I assume we're going to see Plagueis move away in this situation. He also dropped a security battle droid, an infantry battle droid, and a B2 battle droid. No guns yet. And he will pull battle order and then move away. Gritty says USA is about to be 4-0. USA is already 4-0. This is game number 5. Earlier today, Joe Olsen played Endor Ops against Patrick Zappi's Diplo in a very close game that is now available on YouTube, or at least will be shortly. And Plagueis is going to move back outside. Where he is a bit more vulnerable now. Brian's going to draw some cards, though. He had 6 or 7 left after doing all that. because of his guys deploying -1. He was able to drop quite a few. He's got 5 guys in the throne room. He's got 3 ships and 2 extra pilots at Naboo, so he's pretty stacked up at both locations. You almost wonder, now that he's committed so much of his force, does Jonas just pivot and say, you know what, screw it, you can have that 3 damage with all your characters, and I'm just going to go wide? Try and go in space here to Camino, take this site and take this site, and just be like, I can outpower you and do 5 or 6 damage too, and, you know, out damage you per turn. Like, it's not worth it trying to go to the throne room and just be like, you can have it. We used to see light side versions of WHAP do that quite a bit when, like, Hunt Down was very popular, right? When they would stack your throne room and they would throw like, oh, Vader's going here and the Emperor and Tarkin, and we're just going to stack your throne room. And they'd be like, okay, great. I'm just going to go to space and I'm just going to hold out the courtyard, and you're going to pay to drain, and I'm just going to drain for, free. And that was sort of the counterplay to that if they overcommitted to your throne room. So 5, 6, 7, 8 characters already on the table for Brian. And 2 more versions of characters are stacked on sand. So that's 10 character cards you've accounted for. You're thinking, how many are in the deck? 16, 18? Is this a deck that plays as high as 20? Maybe. Certainly something to think about. Unless you got all the tricks that you need. Because, Sidious is going to exclude somebody, so that would probably be Rex, so he's not getting an extra destiny, and he's not getting a gun to shoot people. And the droids, even if you hit them, they just end up going to the racks and coming right back. So that's certainly a concern. Okay, so he leaderships to go get Admiral Killian, and then he plays the Ascension guns to peek at the top 2 cards. So he's not using the Ascension guns to move in, and he might very well be saying, you know what, you can have the throne room and that drain of 1. I'm good. We're going to plan B. Sio Bibble. Okay. So Sio Bibble, well, it's that same site as Amidala, gets a force generation bonus, but while on Naboo, subtracts 1 from opponent's force drains at adjacent sites. It does give a power bonus to other Republic characters. So if Sio Bibble moved over here, he would subtract 1 from this drain. He could also just be a forfeit fodder body if somebody else, if a Jedi and a lightsaber might be. Oh, Jonas asking where the deploy +1 bonus is coming from. Doesn't understand why Sio cost 3. But it is coming from the Naboo system. Who set these matchups? This is just like in the movies. This is iconic, right? This is the battle people waited 17 years for, or something like that. Right. Jonas kind of going into the tank here, trying to figure out if that changes his strategy, that deploy +1. How many characters was he planning on deploying and needing to move people? Now he's really thinking about what his options are. There's no power bonus for controlling the system like with the non-virtual version, so he won't get any power bonus to Plagueis. It's just a power 3 dude. Forfeits for 9. So he would potentially cover up to 12 if he were to go that angle, plus a destiny draw. All right, so Sayo moves over with the queen. Kenobi moves back out in front of Plagueis. And now he's just going to draw a handful more cards. Maybe to see if he can set up something in space. Did he pay to drain at the start of turn? He did pay to drain at the start of the turn. Brian top decked 2 copies of There They Are. So between the 2 copies that he just lost off the top and the 1 stacked already, probably not using those anytime soon to pull more droids. And Jonas is drawing a bunch. He's drawn up to 14. Does he want to push his luck and go any further? Brian's going to play an Accelerate to kind of go verify what's in his deck. And Jonas is going to opt to let him have that one and cycle back a 5, saving his grappling hook grabber for something else. Possibly the Gick if he wants to try and do 2 beatdowns, or every time we see droids and battle droids, there's usually O switch off, which is also a Destiny 6 interrupt. So he might be saving the second grabber for that one. All right, so Brian activates it all down to just 1. He drained for 1 at the throne room. That was a leadership from hand. He drains for 2 at the system. Jonas has an It Could Be Worse for that, which Brian will grab. We already saw earlier an Escape Pod We're Doomed combo being played, so less likely that he has a non-combo We're Doomed in his deck as well. Okay. We get an infantry battle droid in front of light side stack of characters here at the Theed Palace generator. We've got Sil Unch. Once per game, he can get a Hoth or Episode 1 device on a capital starship he's piloting. And while piloting that ship, opponent may not cancel your battle destiny draws where you have a character with Trade Federation in lore. So if Sil was on the capital ship, he would also basically shut down WHAP's ability to cancel battle destiny. Aside from the fact that he's got sand out already and Lightside isn't going to be controlling the throne room anytime, well, I don't want to say anytime soon because they still could hop on over after this turn. Would not surprise me, though, to see Brian just move Plagueis back with those two people and just leave Kenobi here, give him that sight. Just recognize that he's doing 3 damage a turn for free, and his opponent is still paying for damage, and down to 19 cards left face down with which to work in terms of deploying and moving and battling. He plays an Accelerate to try and go get a blockade site, which is not there. Now that card on top of his reserve deck should be the Accelerate he played last turn, so he's sitting there with a 5. I mean, he's deploy +1, forfeit +1, forfeit -1, so worst case, Sayo would cover the 5. And he only gets the 1 destiny draw here, because he only has 1 left. If he had saved 2, this might make a little more sense to battle, because he'd get 2 battle destiny draws. Assuming, of course, nobody got shot, and there's just sorry about the mess kind of thing going on, but I don't expect we're seeing Brian going to initiate a battle here. And he's just going to patiently move away. Also, the longer that Brian can avoid a battle starting, the longer he effectively denies Jonas access to Qui-Gon. With, typically this deck is only running 2 copies, so to have them both stacked on sand already does take a key light side character away. Brian did put Tae Hao up on the blockade flagship bridge before moving Plagueis over. I missed that. That's also big because if Lightside does go to Camino now, Tae Hao's text can basically just reduce the force loss from that drain at the system because it's 5 and 7 parsecs, so it's within 2 parsecs. So basically that's a built-in, it could be worse. So now Jonas has basically no incentive and no additional damage that he can force by that strategy we were talking earlier about just going wide and ignoring him. Because as long as Brian can save 2 force, he can just mitigate that damage. All right. They both have 12 cards in hand. Brian has 14 left down. He has so much on the table. He's actually behind right now. He's got 7 active and 7 in reserve deck. Jonas has 14 in reserve deck and 5 active right now, so he hasn't activated yet for his turn. So he's technically ahead 19 to 14 in life force counts, just very behind in board position at the moment. Jonas activated 13. He left 1 force. And he does pay with Kenobi to drain. Brian's going to throw away a second force push from hand. And a second Darth Plagueis from hand. Now, interestingly enough, too, we see the Darth Plagueis over here on sand. So sand says it prevents players from drawing more than 1 Battle Destiny. The objective gets around that. It's kind of a dirty little combo. Because they draw 2 if unable to otherwise. So you can play this, pick up the card. You know, light side's limited to 1, dark side's limited to 1, but the objective says they can still draw 2 if unable to otherwise. So they get the second Battle Destiny. Alright, and we do see a Yoda Mofo show up. And he gets a lightsaber too. Now, this is Obi's lightsaber, which is adding to the drain, and a Jedi lightsaber, which is adding to the drain. Brian does have a shield pull left, so he could pull resistance to cap this at a drain of 2. Actually, I think the objective does it anyway, doesn't it? Yeah, you lose no more than 2 force to any force drain. So both objectives have that text on the flip side, so they have a built-in resistance. So he doesn't even need to worry about that shield pull. As long as he stays flipped. The other useful text on the back of the dark side objective is, if opponent just drew an interrupt for Battle Destiny once per battle, you can place that card out of play. Which is just another way that he can cause them extra force loss. Jonas is going to drop Anakin, Padawan, give him a Jedi lightsaber as well. He's going to the Naboo Swamp. And now Rex, Amidala, and Sio Bibble will move to the hallway, where Sio's text will now subtract 1 from opponent's force drains at adjacent sites. So now the throne room becomes a 0. This site would only be a drain of 1. But he does move Kenobi over to block instead. And then Jonas activates the last card he had remaining with his objective and then draws. Brian's going to cycle back and accelerate. Yeah, because now this is a drain of 0. So now it's just a drain of 2 at the system. And now light side's threatening drains of 2 and 2 at the exterior sites. Whereas dark side is draining for nothing inside and only 2 at the system. So as long as light side can keep paying for these drains, they could be doing up to 4 damage a turn. Whereas dark side is only going to do 2. I think we're too early in the game for Brian to try to get greedy and like spread out in space and cover both systems. I think that would be a very greedy play and a very risky one. So hopefully he doesn't do that. And that'll be the one biased thing for Team USA, I will say. All right, Jonas cycles back a Were You Looking For Me, pulls 3PO out of his deck, and then activates a force with his objective. He will then get drained for 2 in space. See if he's got 2 cards in hand he wants to lose, or maybe the card he just put back. He throws away 3PO and the puller. He's just like, at this point in the game, 3PO ain't doing nothing for me. Brian drained for 0 at the throne room. I guess he did not remember offhand that Cyberbible subtracts 1. Or maybe he just wanted to see what Jemp would think. Sometimes it's okay to just click a button and see what happens. Okay, so Brian deploys a security droid in front of Anakin, making them pay +1 to move away. While he's with another battle droid, he would draw 1 if unable to otherwise. Currently no other battle droids present. He does drop a battle droid blaster rifle on the infantry battle droid. Now, Kenobi is defense value 6. And the gun shoots at +1, so he would need a 6. Assuming there's no blaster deflection or anything being played. Actually hit Kenobi. Brian cycles a 5, and another accelerate. Nothing happens there. We do get our first battle of the game. We'll see if Jonas does want to just waste a sand pull and pick up one of those Qui-Gons just to have another character to work with. Oh, well, he's got to swing first. He swings at Darth Plagueis. Brian plays self-destruct mechanism to retarget it to the droid. And then now he can play the O switch off to cancel the targeting? Yeah. So the self-destruct mechanism retargets it to the droid, then the O switch off protects the droid. That does get the grabber. It's another handy little combo there, which does make this invasion deck a little annoying to play against sometimes. Okay, so Jonas plays a Clash of Sabers to exclude the droid. That will limit Brian to just getting the 1 destiny now. And also prevent him from forfeiting the gun and looping stuff around. But Syl does forfeit for 6. So even with Kenobi adding 1, there's a decent chance that he's still only going to get the 1 character. But he's also immune to less than 6. So Kenobi's going to live through this battle because of the clash. They both draw 5, so they'll both be tied in power. The objective does get to put that card out of play. See if Kenobi adds 1. He does, so now he's up by 1. But yeah, that's still just going to get Syl. Plagueis is completely immune to attrition anyway. Now the droid can't move away. Obviously, Plagueis could. He can move back outside in front of Yoda. I don't know what the plan is for the security droid, if he's planning on shuttling somebody down. Two droids with different card titles, or a droid and a Nemoidian, so he could potentially shuttle the battle droid pilot down. Yep, that's exactly what he does. Okay. Now, if you're Brian, I guess you're just worried about a sorry about the mess or another clash. And also what to do with Plagueis. Plagueis moves to the hallway. Okay, perhaps he can get some help from the throne room. I don't know what. He's going to slide two droids over. He slides the security droid and the infantry droid over there as well. Okay. So he's certainly going to put some pressure on Jonas here. Block some of the drains. Kind of force him, with only 15 cards left down, how he wants to take advantage of some of that forced situation, and also potentially the more battles that happen, the more cards Brian can put out of play if he draws interrupts for destiny. Now, if you're Jonas and you have things like sorry about the mess here, you can certainly force Brian to put him to the test here. Make sure if he has a Gick, or obviously, of course, other copies of O Switch Off. Being a used Destiny 6, I'd have to imagine there's 3 or 4 of them in this style of battle droid deck. And it was only stacked on the free grabber, so it's not like you would have to spend force to use it either. Oh, and it's also not unique. Droid's also protected for remainder of turn, so if he tries to sorry about the mess one of your droids, and you play the O switch off, he also can't swing at that droid in a battle later. He can shoot the other one, but All right, so Brian does play There They Are for 2 force. And he will go get another B2 droid out of his deck. It does get stacked on the grabber. Now Jonas will pay 3. Drain at the courtyard. Brian's going to throw away his copy of the throne room. Certainly doesn't need that anymore. And 1 more force loss pending. All right, it was a self-destruct mechanism. Kenobi's going to disarm the infantry droid. It's the first disarmed we've seen from light side. It's also the first weapon we've seen deployed on a character for dark side yet. You were almost wondering if Brian was sort of waiting to see who was going to move where before he started putting guns down that could just easily get disarmed. All right, Kenobi shows up. I'm sorry, Solo shows up. Now he's going to play an interrupt from the Lost Pile. There's the Clash of Sabers again. So he's going to clash one of the droids here with Anakin. And now Anakin and Solo are going to beat up on the lone droid, the battle droid pilot, who has no power and only forfeits for 2. He's also going to pick up one of the cards off sand to get that Qui-Gon into hand. Brian's going to pick up a card as well. He picks up the Newt Gunray. At this point in time, it might just be a matter of, hey, I just need another card to throw away to a future drain. I'll take the opportunity to use it while I can. So it's a 4 for Battle Destiny, which takes him up to 13 total power. 13-0. Ryan loses the droid, stacks him on the racks, and now has 11 battle damage. And he's peeling 11 cards. He did not have a Gick. And that just turned this game completely around. Brian's going to empty his hand now. Just to recap everything Brian lost. So, from hand, Lord Sidious, Newt Gunray, self-destruct mechanism, Battle Droid Blaster Rifle, Battle Droid Blaster Rifle, B2 Droid, Battle Droid Blaster Rifle from the used pile. We must accelerate off the top, steal the bridge off the top, Gick combo off the top, and blast points off the top. Dan creatively changing the words to misquote Ghostbusters by saying that this man has no Gick. It's true, he doesn't. Kenobi cannot battle because that droid was clashed. So Brian down to just 6 cards remaining in Life Force. And 2 in hand. While Jonas has 13 down and 9 in hand still, so very big turn of events in that last battle there. We talked earlier about Brian not trying to get too greedy, and I guess he wasn't expecting a second clash, but forgot about Solo. Now, this droid is back. He is no longer clashed, so he can move and do stuff. This droid is still clashed, which you can see in the modifier section there. This droid's not doing anything here, but this one has to be mindful being in front of Kenobi there. Brian's going to activate all of it now. So there's Kit Fisto from hand. There's Admiral Killian from hand. Yeah, I mean, with just 8 cards left down, I mean, technically he can pay to drain for 1 or 2 more turns, and this game's over. Brian's going to move the droid away from Kenobi. He's going to the exterior site in front of Yoda. He's going to shuttle down Dauphine. And then Plagueis and the two battle droids shuffle over in front of Kenobi. So he's blocked all of the drains for the time being. And he also shuttles down Te Hao. So he's emptied out the spaceship. Jonas has to be smelling blood right now. I mean, he busted Brian open pretty good with that last battle, so now it's just a matter of, where else can he do damage? Anakin and Solo can't battle. This droid is still clashed till the end of this turn. Of these two particular locations, neither one looks great, but we know he's got at least a Qui-Gon in hand. We don't know what other characters he might have available. He did save 3, so presumably he's planning on swinging at somebody. Brian, with only 2 cards left in hand, certainly cleared out a lot of his additional defensive tricks and things, so may not have an O switch off, unless that's what the 2 cards are, a self-destruct and an O switch off. But with 10 force active, his guys do deploy +1. And 7 cards in hand to work with. Be very interested to see which location Jonas finds more appealing. You'd think the Yoda site, but we have not seen a sorry about the mess yet. But you'd like to believe if he was going to use a sorry about the mess, he would have saved 5 in reserve deck. Not just 3. Dan Tartaglione thinks that you would drop Qui-Gon with Yoda, move the lightsaber to Qui-Gon, and then battle at that location. And then you could just move Yoda away. Jonas has decided to just activate his remaining 3 force, indicating he will be battling no one. Let's see how it works out for him. All right, so he's finally going to deploy to space. And he does go to Camino with the Resolute for 6 force. Te Hao is on the ground, and Brian, certainly with only 6 cards left, may not be in a position where he can afford to basically keep spending force to pay to mitigate that drain. He does drop Qui-Gon in front of Yoda, does move the lightsaber, and Yoda could potentially relocate for free. Maybe over here with Kenobi as backup. Nope, instead he's just going to pass. He's going to leave everything as is. Put the pressure back on Brian to make something happen. With his 6 remaining force. And this droid at the swamp is now live again. So he'll have to be accounted for. So Brian's looking at options here of, do I battle Kenobi and then like shuttle Taehao up and move the other droid over? But then you're still getting hit with a drain of 2. Yeah, Jonas is definitely in the driver's seat, Silver Glenn. You're not wrong about that. And this could be the turning point that Team Europe needs to get things back on track. Brian's going to activate the last 2 force now, basically saying, yep, battling doesn't get me anywhere. Doesn't get me far enough where I need extra force to deploy and move people around. He's going to pay 2 to pick up the droid pilot. 2 to take him into hand. He only costs 1 to redeploy because of the objective. They'll put him down there in front of Anakin and Solo. And then does he just shuttle Taehao back up and say go? Saving that 2 force to reduce the drain at Camino. And then force Jonas into battling him. Is there something he would want to land? Not sure that really makes much sense. Does he want to move Maul over away? We saw Killian go away. We haven't seen Yularen yet. So he could just be, bluffing the ship because he knows Brian doesn't really have anything left he can come after him with. But if Brian were to move away, would he then, drop a pilot and finish the game off? Silver Glenn cheering, move Maul over. Yeah. Just want to get the game over faster. He does bring Taehao back up. Now, he doesn't have to use both force, right? He could obviously, move somebody else. Yeah, he does move Maul over, so I guess he's going to say, hey, if you got the Admiral, you got the Admiral. However, it also should be pointed out that Maul does forfeit for 8, so... And he is going to move Plagueis as well in front of the 2 characters. So he's kind of balancing out the power a little better. He's blocked all the drains. But Obviously, he's left himself into a situation to get battled in multiple locations. Jonas has 2 active already. He can activate 9 more. The question is how many places does he want to battle? What's in his hand? You know, this thing's only immune to less than 5, which is what I think Yolarin also forfeits for 5. Somebody can correct me on that. So this could be a risky battle. Again, if there's still any 6s floating around, he could end up losing the whole thing. But of course, the position he's squeezed in now, he can't just run to Naboo because Tehao is there. So he does get a Destiny? Yeah, because the permanent pilot provides ability of 2 as well. So yeah, I mean, they can keep doing the shuffle back and forth. You know, I shuffle this guy over in front of you, you shuffle this person in front of me. But at the end of the day, somebody has to get additional damage through. And if he moves away, he does leave a drain of 2 behind for Maul. So somewhere in here, he's got to start clearing out sites again to force through some battle damage. Also, time could be an issue. Jonas only with 10 minutes remaining on his clock. Brian's got 16 still, but I think we're going to be okay. Turn 7 with 10 minutes left. Obviously a complicated board state, but there should be enough time to finish this up normally. All right, there is the Yularin we spoke of. I mean, he adds a Destiny, but there is a card left on sand, so that's not really going to matter. I'll pick that up. I doubt we'll see Maul lose a force to cloak. That doesn't seem like it's going to have much of an implication there. The only thing, you know, Brian's obviously hoping he draws a 6, and Jonas is obviously hoping he doesn't draw a 6. They both pick up cards off sand, so just to have extra cards to throw away at this point. Maul should cover any battle damage, unless the Destinies go wildly one way or the other. All right, so Jonas does draw a 4, the Odin Nestler combo, which Brian uses the objective to place out of play. Yularin is forfeit 6. Oh, +1 from the other pathetic life form. So there you go. He's 5 natural. He does get the +1 from the bonus. So Brian, he does draw the 6. So it does just kill Yularin. See, thank you. I knew somebody would correct me. So Yularin dies. The Maul and Sith Infiltrator dies. Is one of the cards Brian's holding on to. The Maul, a second copy of that. Maybe Brian baited Jonas. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. We are going to get a second ground battle, though. That's exciting. Qui-Gon's going to take a swing at Plagueis. And the corridor site, the courtyard adds 1 to each draw. So we get a 5 and a 2, which normally would miss, but since they're each +1, it's a total of 9. And he is hit and may not be used to satisfy attrition. Light side's going to get 1 battle destiny. Dark side's going to get 2 here. Both light side characters are completely immune, though, so it's just going to be a power difference. And if it's an interrupt, which it is, the objective will also put that out of play, because it's once per battle. So it was a 5, it was Jedi's concentration. That's out of play. And Jonas is up to 14 total. Brian would need to draw... Well, he drew a 5 to start with. He would need 7 total to tie. Anything else to cause overflow. It's a 5 and a 4. So that'll get him to 16, so that would be 2 force loss. So in addition to losing the Battle Destiny interrupt, Jonas is also going to have to either lose 2 cards or one of the characters. Normally you'd say, all right, just lose 2 force. But he's only got 9 left face down to work with. All right, he throws away a Mace Windu and that Qui-Gon he picked up to keep his characters alive. And Brian forfeits Captain Dauphine to cover the attrition, along with the Darth Plagueis that was hit. Do we get one more battle? Anakin and Solo, maybe? Nope, he's just going to activate that last force. And draw that card. All right. Life Force counts. Jonas 8 down, 4 in hand. Brian 6 down, 3 in hand. And one of those in hand is that Darth Plagueis we talked about earlier. Brian activated 4 so far. Still in activate phase. Yep, definitely thinking hard about what to do here. Plagueis, I want to say Plagueis is only deploy 3, but let's go find out. Plagueis is deploy 4. And he can't battle for free. So if he were going to deploy Plagueis, he'd have to activate the rest of the force, unless he's just going to drop him. But with Taehao in space, like, he could. Okay, so Brian's just going to leave the 2 back. He's going to drain for 2 at Naboo. Jonas throws away a Jedi Lev from hand. And Rick and Queen's Starship from reserve deck. Let's see what the other cards in Brian's hands are. We finally find out what he's been clutching. Okay, he's just going to battle into Anakin and Solo. Now, if this is 5/6, it would clear both characters. Anakin's going to swing. And, well, yeah, he's going to hit. Draws the Ascension Guns and the Sio Bibble. No, sorry about the mess. So it's a 5 with an Accelerate, and I think this is a gun for a 6. Yeah. So that'll be 11. So that'll clear both characters, and that's a 5, which is an effect, which becomes a 6. So the droid actually does cover being forfeit 2, is just enough. Brian can stack his droids if he wants to on the racks, and he will do so. But yeah, but light side loses both their characters. Now it's one less site that Brian has to worry about doing anything with. We'd have to imagine he's gonna move this droid away, and he could possibly move him over here to the swamp and just, YOLO at this point. Jonas only has 7 cards left down, 3 in hand. Does he have another character that he could come back with? Probably, but I mean, you have to move this guy away. So either you're moving him in front of Kenobi with this party here, or you're moving him outside here and at least forcing light side to have to do something. And possibly getting another drain point of damage through. Yeah, light side's going to get to drain here. I can't, unless Brian magically picked up a Gick in the last turn. I can't imagine that this droid gets to stay there. And as long as he has 2 force remaining, Tae Hao can cancel this damage over here. Again, assuming he doesn't just move over and move in front. He's been doing okay so far being flipped. He's put 4 interrupts out of play. Definitely going to be close. Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand, obviously, if he moves over and Jonas has to run to Naboo, he does flip back, which then turns this into a non-battleground system, like we were talking about at the beginning of the game, where Darkseid gets favored, playing, hopscotch, going back and forth, whereas Lightside typically ends up being at a non-battleground system for a while and having to pay to drain. I suppose that's another... no, that's not an option. I was going to say another option would be, obviously, is he could shuttle Tae Hao down to be with the droid and then move both ships. But then he's not getting a Battle Destiny. Because I don't think this thing draws if unable to. No. Yep, he's going to move that guy outside. And as far as an armor goes, this thing is armor 6. Destiny +1 equals defense value. Target is power 0 until end of turn. So if he moved over and he shot him, he drew a 5, he'd make it power 0. But I don't necessarily see that happening. Okay, Brian does just move the droid away. Tarkin's orders would also be very big here to cancel this drain at the courtyard. But I don't think he's got that up his sleeve. There goes an O switch off from hand. And then accelerate from hand. So Brian's got 2 left in hand. We know one of them is Plagueis, I believe. We're still not sure what that second card is. And obviously he drains over here, which Tae Hao will reduce to 0. And there is the sorry about the mess. It was a non-combo sorry. And Brian had an O switch off left. So that was the other card he was clutching. Jonas finally played the sorry about the mess with Kenobi. And Brian was able to avoid it. So this game will continue a little bit longer. Jonas now down to 7 minutes on his clock. Brian's at 8:40. So time starting to become a bit of a factor. But I've certainly seen more than a few games over the years where players with 2 or 3 minutes on their clock just kind of click through actions, and it seems like their whole turn takes 4 seconds. So there are ways around it. All right, we're just moving some people. Yoda moves in front of the battle droid. Rex moves over to back up Kenobi. And Amidala goes with him. He'll activate a force with his objective. He'll left Sio Bibble alone. Fairly safe. I mean, it's a site where Darkseid has no icons, can't deploy without a spy. This deck shouldn't really have any spies to begin with. And again, pretty sure the card in Brian's hand is Plagueis. Yoda used his personal land speed. He paid the 1 to move. So both players have 5 cards remaining face down. Brian with 1 in hand, Jonas with 4 in hand. But we are going to get a drain of 2 at the Naboo system. Okay, Jonas is going to shuffle Brian's deck. He doesn't want him tracking anything around. Okay. Brian's going to activate all of it. Probably see him drain for 2. He could pick up a droid and then redeploy it. 2 to pick up the droid and 1 to deploy it. There goes a disarmed from hand. And a blaster deflection from hand. Oh. Brian trying to go back. Going back to control phase. Yeah, we're going to redo the drain, it looks like. Clicked too fast. Oh, because he didn't pick up the droid. And Jonas allows the revert there. So the same 2 cards get lost from hand. We're still in control phase. He does use the racks to pick up the droid. You guys might be right. He might have to move. If nothing else, moving over there, you know, chases him to the non-battleground. I mean, obviously, yes, he flips back, but at the same time, it also makes Lightside have to pay to do any more damage. But it also makes his droid setup a bit weaker, too. Because now they're only drawing 1 Battle Destiny. Because of the text on the droid. This one doesn't even draw by himself or with anybody else. So it'd really only be the text from the security droid that would help. And Brian does put another security droid down. Alright. He passes battle. See if he passes... if he decides to move, or if he's just going to use Taihao again. to shut that down. Both players down to about 6 minutes on their clock. How do I always get the long games when I'm trying to, like, stream while technically still on the clock, if you know what I'm saying? All right. Brian does follow suit, follows your guys' advice, and finally does move over. So all of the sites are blocked off now except for this courtyard. So he will get a drain for 2 there. Assume Brian throws away the Plagueis from hand, and yep. And then top decks a gun. And now he's going to shuffle Jonas's deck. Just cuz. Jonas did save 4. Now he can activate 1 with his objective at any time, so he can, battle, do things, and then if he needs a force to move away, he can activate 1 to do so. Battle inside because Obi Saber makes forfeit 0. Indeed it does. Not that these guys have a whole lot of forfeit anyway, but they're each forfeit 3. Relying on the fact that they're drawing 2 Battle Destiny here and should have a total of about 10. But it certainly could make a bit of a difference. Oh, he does get the extra Destiny because of Rex. This should be game over then. Obi should hit, forfeit 0. And then draw 2 Battle Destiny to his 2 Battle Destiny. Unless Jonas has a dud in there somewhere. And if it was, he just drew it there, it looks like. So that guy's hit, forfeit 0. I mean, technically Rex could shoot at the other one, but I don't see the need to do that. I would just draw the 2 Battle Destiny here, so. Yep, there's a 5. He'll put that out of play with the objective. But this just might be game over right here. Kenobi's going to add 1 to it to make it a 6. And a 2. So it's 21 for dark side. I'm sorry, for light side. Dark side's only covering 7 right now. So once they had a couple of 6s up their sleeve. And it's a pair of 5s. But that's going to be the remaining 4 force that Brian has left. And that should wrap it up. Adding 1 with Kenobi, getting the second Destiny from when they were just pillaging cards unnecessarily off sand earlier to have cards to throw away to drains. Certainly did catch up here, but that's going to be a good game. Definitely turning point, of course, is that battle earlier where Brian got overflowed by 11. That was definitely a close fight. Congratulations to Jonas for picking up the win for Team Europe. Getting them on the scoreboard there. 4-1 now. Our next game coming up tomorrow. will feature Joe Olson playing Lightside with Watch Your Step against Casper playing Shadow Collective. That matchup takes place at noon Eastern Time tomorrow. Not sure who's streaming it, but we'll get that figured out soon. And thank you all very, very much for watching. And may the force be with you.